The rain-slicked streets of Brooklyn gleamed like shattered glass under the sodium lamps as I stepped out of the subway, my heart pounding harder than the thunder rumbling overhead. 10 years had carved canyons into my life since Jordan vanished into the haze of his dreams. But there he was, leaning against a lamppost like a ghost made flesh, his designer coat draped over broad shoulders that time had only sharpened. "Alex," he said, voice cutting through the downpour like it always had. "You look like you could use a real hug." I froze, umbrella slipping from my numb fingers, splashing into a puddle that mirrored the chaos swirling in my chest. Jordan Hayes, the boy who'd once shared my secrets under summer stars in our sleepy Ohio hometown. Now the face plastered on every billboard from Times Square to Tokyo. A Hollywood heartthrob whose latest indie flick had just snagged an Oscar nod. He'd texted out of nowhere that afternoon. "In town. Meet me?" Same spot as always. As if a decade of silence could be bridged by a corner deli in Greenpoint, the one we'd joked about owning someday. But here he was, grinning that lopsided smile that used to disarm my every defense, water beading on his lashes like unshed tears. "Jordan." My voice cracked, barely audible over the storm's growl. He closed the distance in 2 strides, pulling me into an embrace that smelled of expensive cologne and faint cigarette smoke. Habits I'd read about in tabloids, not the wild grass and creek water of our youth. His arms locked around me, solid and unyielding, as if he'd rehearsed this moment in front of mirrors on private jets. "God, I've missed you," he murmured into my hair, and for a split second, the world narrowed to the heat of his body against mine, the way his breath hitched like it used to when we'd sneak out at midnight, hearts racing for more than just the thrill of rebellion. We ducked into the deli, shaking off the rain like old times, the bell above the door jingling a mocking welcome. The place hadn't changed. Faded Formica counters, the hum of an ancient fridge stocked with knockoff sodas, and Maria behind the register, her eyes widening in recognition before flicking to me with a knowing smirk. "Alex, you bring home a movie star? Don't let him eat all the pastrami." Jordan laughed, that deep, rumbling sound that always made my stomach flip, and ordered 2 coffees, black, no sugar. Just how we liked them back when caffeine was our rebellion against curfews. As we slid into a booth scarred by years of initials and doodles, the vinyl seats creaking under us, the weight of absence crashed down. I'd built a life here in New York, scraping by as a freelance editor for indie presses, my tiny apartment in Bushwick a fortress of half-read manuscripts and unspoken regrets. Jordan? He'd exploded into stardom after that raw audition tape went viral. A gritty short film that landed him roles in blockbusters, red carpets, and a string of high-profile heartbreaks splashed across gossip sites. Gay icon, they called him now, out and proud in interviews that glossed over the boy who'd once confessed his fears to me alone, under the covers with a flashlight. "So," I started, stirring my coffee to avoid his gaze, "what's a superstar doing slumming it in Brooklyn rain?" He leaned back, stretching his legs until his knee brushed mine under the table, a casual touch that sent sparks up my spine. "Filming a scene nearby? But really? I wanted to see you. It's been too long, Alex. Feels like yesterday we were plotting world domination from your backyard fort." His eyes, those hazel depths flecked with gold, held mine with an intensity that made the air thicken. Yesterday? Try 1,000 yesterdays of wondering if he'd think of me during award speeches, or if the distance had erased the way he'd looked at me that last summer, right before he left for LA. We talked for hours, the storm outside fading to a drizzle as words tumbled out like pent-up floodwaters. He regaled me with tales of set mishaps, a director's tantrum in Prague, a co-star's diva meltdown on a yacht, laughing off the glamour like it was just another backyard adventure. I shared snippets of my world, the novel I'd abandoned after 3 rejections, the queer book club I'd started that met in a dingy coffee shop, the quiet ache of turning 30 without the family I'd dreamed of. He listened, really listened, chin propped on his hand, nodding in that way that made me feel seen, not just heard. "You're still the best writer I know," he said softly, reaching across to squeeze my wrist. "Don't stop. The world's been waiting for your voice." By the time we stepped back into the night, the air crisp and electric, I felt lighter, like the decade had been a bad dream. He hailed a cab, but didn't get in. instead turning to me with a grin. Dinner tomorrow? My treat. Somewhere fancy. None of this deli crap. I nodded, throat tight, and watched the taillights swallow him whole. Back in my apartment, peeling off wet clothes, I stared at my reflection in the fogged mirror. Older, wearier, but alive in a way I hadn't been since he left. What was this? A reunion? A rekindling? Or just Jordan's way of collecting ghosts from his past? As sleep claimed me, his voice echoed, "I've missed you." And for the first time in years, I believed in second acts. The next morning dawned with a text that buzzed my phone off the nightstand. 8 p.m. The River Cafe. Wear that blue shirt. I always liked it on you. My heart stuttered. The blue shirt, the one from our prom night, when we ditched the dance to stargaze on the high school roof, shoulders brushing as we whispered dreams. How did he remember? I dug it out from the back of my closet, the fabric soft from disuse, and spent the day distracted, editing copy with half my brain while the other replayed last night's hug, the press of his chest, the faint stubble grazing my temple. The River Cafe was a world away from Brooklyn delis, twinkling lights over the East River, white linens, and waiters who moved like dancers. I arrived early, nerves jangling, smoothing my shirt in the elevator mirror. When Jordan walked in, heads turned, whispers rippling like waves. He was in a tailored blazer, jeans hugging his frame just right, but his smile was all for me as he waved off the maitre d' and slid into the seat across from mine. "You clean up nice, Hayes," I teased, but my voice wavered. He reached for the menu, fingers lingering near mine. "Only for you." Dinner unfolded like a dream sequence, lobster bisque and stories swapped over candlelight. He confessed the loneliness of fame. Empty hotel rooms after premieres, contracts that scripted his every move, the pressure to be the perfect gay poster boy. "They want me flawless, Alex. But you always saw the mess." His foot nudged mine under the table, a deliberate anchor. I opened up too, about the ex who'd bailed when my career stalled, the family back in Ohio who'd never quite grasped my city phase, as Mom called it. "They love you," Jordan said firmly. "And if they don't get it, screw 'em. You're enough." As dessert arrived, chocolate souffle we shared with 2 spoons, the conversation dipped into the past. That summer before he left. Bonfires where we danced to bootleg mixtapes, his hand steadying me during a tipsy confession about my first crush on a boy from art class. "You were brave," he said, eyes darkening. "Braver than me back then." The air hummed with what-ifs, the unspoken pull that had always simmered between us. When the check came, he insisted, slipping a black card that made the waiter fumble. Outside, under a canopy of stars reflected in the water, he pulled me close again. "This isn't a one-off, Alex. I mean it, I'm back. For good, if you'll have me." I wanted to believe him, but doubt gnawed at the edges. As his driver pulled up, a sleek SUV idling like a predator, paparazzi flashes erupted from the shadows. "Jordan, who's the mystery guy?" Shouts, lenses trained on us like weapons. He shielded me with his arm, whispering, "Ignore them," before bundling me into the car. We rode in charged silence to my stop, his hand on my thigh a burning question. At my door, he kissed my cheek, soft, lingering. "Tomorrow." I nodded, dazed, and watched him drive away, the city lights blurring through tears I hadn't expected. That night, sleep evaded me, replaying the evening's intimacies, his laugh lines deepening when he teased me, the way his gaze lingered on my lips. Was this real, or just Jordan's charm offensive, a break from scripted romances? By dawn, another text, a photo of us from the deli, blurry but genuine, captioned, "Proof we're unstoppable." I smiled despite myself, but as I scrolled news alerts, headlines speculating Jordan Hayes' secret Brooklyn beau, a chill settled. Fame wasn't just lights and applause. It was scrutiny, the kind that could unravel fragile threads. The week blurred into a montage of stolen moments. Mornings at my place, where he'd show up with bagels and scripts, reading lines while I edited nearby, our knees touching under the coffee table. Afternoons wandering the High Line, his ball cap pulled low, fingers interlacing mine when no cameras lurked. Evenings at dive bars where he'd belt karaoke like we were kids again, voice raw and unpolished, pulling cheers from strangers who had no idea the star in their midst. "This is what I missed," he'd say, nuzzling my neck in dark corners. "You." Us. Real. But cracks appeared, subtle at first. A call from his agent mid-laugh. Jordan, darling, that photo's viral. We need to spin it, boyfriend reveal. He hung up abruptly, face storming, and snapped at me over nothing, my hesitation to pose for a selfie. What's the big deal, Alex? It's just a picture. The big deal was the fear coiling in my gut, the way his world loomed like a tidal wave ready to drown mine. I was ordinary. Queer, yes, but the kind who blended into pride parades, not headline them. He was a beacon, drawing heat I wasn't built to withstand. One night, after a screening of his latest film, a tearjerker about lost love that hit too close, we ended up at his hotel suite overlooking Central Park. No sex, just tangled on the couch, his head on my lap as I carted fingers through his hair. Remember the fort? He murmured. We swore we'd conquer everything together. I did, the plywood walls scrawled with our names. The night he admitted he thought he might like boys, too, his voice trembling as he waited for my reaction. I'd hugged him then, whispering it was okay, we were okay. Now, in the hush of luxury, I traced the scar on his knuckle from that same summer's mishap. We almost did, I said. But they almost hung heavy, laced with the years he'd chased spotlights without looking back. As the city hummed below, he shifted, eyes locking on mine with a vulnerability that stole my breath. I was scared, Alex. Leaving you. It was the hardest thing, but I had to try. For me. And now. His hand cupped my jaw, thumb brushing my lip. Now I know I need this. You. The kiss that followed was inevitable. Slow, searching, tasting of salt and second chances. Not hungry, but deep, like coming home. We broke apart gasping, foreheads pressed, and in that moment, the decade dissolved. Just us, two boys from Ohio rewriting their story under Manhattan stars. Yet dawn brought reality's bite. His phone exploded with notifications, fans shipping JLEX, trolls spewing vitriol about gold diggers. He silenced it, but the damage lingered in his tightened jaw. Over breakfast, he pitched an idea. Come to LA with me. After the press tour. We could make it work. Beach house, no interruptions. My stomach twisted. Leave New York? My scrappy life, my friends who'd become family through shared heartbreaks? I don't know, Jordan. Your world. It's huge. He frowned, hurt flickering. So's mine without you in it. The tension simmered through the day, bubbling over at a quiet dinner with my book club pals. Ethan, the wry poet with a penchant for bad tattoos, and Lila, the fierce activist who dragged me to my first rally. Jordan charmed them effortlessly, regaling with behind-the-scenes gossip, but I caught Ethan's sidelong glance. Protective, wary. Later, in the cab home, Jordan's arm around me felt possessive. They're great, he said, but they don't get it. The pressure. You'd understand. I pulled away slightly. Get what? That you're untouchable now. The words slipped out sharper than intended. Born of fear, he'd slip away again. He stiffened. That's not fair, Alex. I'm trying. Silence stretched, thick as fog, until he dropped me off with a clipped call me. Alone in my apartment, guilt warred with resentment. Trying? He waltzed back and like time hadn't scarred us both. Me with doubts etched deep, him with fame's gilded armor. I scrolled old photos. Us at 12, gap-toothed and inseparable. At 18, arms slung around shoulders, eyes saying what mouths couldn't. What had changed? Everything. Nothing. Days passed in radio silence, my texts unanswered amid his whirlwind schedule. Then, a package arrived. No sender, just a battered journal, pages filled with his scrawl, lyrics, doubts, my name doodled in margins like a talisman. Tucked inside, a note. Read this. Then talk to me. Heart hammering. I devoured it. Entries from his early LA days, raw confessions of isolation, of loving someone safe across miles, of fearing he'd ruin us by dragging me into chaos. The last page, dated yesterday. Coming back was selfish. But losing you again? Unbearable. I showed up at his hotel unannounced, journal clutched like a shield. He opened the door in sweats, eyes red-rimmed, and pulled me inside without a word. We collapsed onto the bed, not touching, just breathing the same air. I thought you'd ghost me, I admitted. He shook his head. Never. But I get it, you're scared. So am I. We talked then, really talked. About the prejudices we dodged as kids in conservative Ohio, the misunderstandings that fame amplified, like assuming his silences meant indifference when they masked panic. I acted like nothing changed because everything had, he whispered. I needed you to still see me, the real me. Tears came, hot and unbidden, as we bridged the gaps. His fear of being a phase, my terror of being a footnote. By midnight, hands entwined, we sketched a fragile plan. Slow, honest, no assumptions. Friends first, I teased, echoing our old pact. He grinned, pulling me close. Always more than that. The kiss was softer this time, a promise sealed in vulnerability. But life, cruel curator, had other scripts. A week later, at a glitzy fundraiser for queer youth, Jordan's passion project, flashes blinded us on the red carpet. Arm in arm, we posed, his hand firm on my waist. Inside, amid toasts and laughter, his ex, a model named Theo, cornered me by the bar. He's intense at first, Theo drawled, eyes cold. But the spotlight wins. Always. Doubt slithered back, poison in my veins. Was this just another role for Jordan? The night unraveled when a leaked email surfaced online. His agents leaked strategy. Soft launched the boyfriend angle for PR bump. Keep it light. My phone lit up with screenshots, friends' concerned texts. Betrayal burned as I slipped out, hailing a cab into the night. Jordan's calls went to voicemail, his pleas. It's not like that, Alex, I swear. Echoing unanswered. Back home, I curled into the dark, the journal mocking me from the nightstand. Misunderstandings we'd vowed to conquer. But this felt like the end before the beginning. Weeks dragged, a gray haze of avoidance. I threw myself into work, editing manuscripts that blurred with my own unfinished story, while Jordan's face haunted billboards, his interviews conspicuously solo. Whispers from mutual friends, he's a wreck. Blames himself. Part of me softened, remembering the boy who'd built forts to shield us from the world. But prejudice, society's, my own, whispered louder. Superstars don't settle for editors and Bushwick walk-ups. Then, the surprise, a script arrived, courier delivered, titled Echoes. My name on the cover, in his handwriting. For Alex, our story, unfiltered. Pages chronicled us, fictionalized, but achingly true. Two boys navigating love amid small-town stares, one chasing dreams that pulled him away, the other holding the tether. The climax? A reunion where apologies weren't words, but actions, choosing quiet over chaos. Tears soaked the pages as I read through the night. By dawn, I was at his door, script in hand. He looked wrecked, unshaven, eyes shadowed, but lit up like sunrise when he saw me. You read it. Not a question. I nodded, stepping inside. It's beautiful. And terrifying. We sat on the floor, backs to the wall, unpacking the wreckage. The email a desperate pitch he'd rejected. Theo's barbs a bid for relevance. I chose you, he said fiercely. Before the leak, before the fame. Always. The conflict crested then, not in shouts, but in raw honesty. I confessed my insecurities, the prejudice I'd internalized. That love like ours was for movies, not messy realities. He shared his, the fear that stardom made him unworthy, a fraud in borrowed glamour. But with you, he said, hand over mine, I'm just Jordan, the kid who needs you to believe in us. As sunlight slanted through blinds, we rose, tentative. No grand gestures, just a walk in the park, hands brushing, then holding. The city buzzed around us, indifferent, but in that grip, I felt the decade's weight lift. Surprises lingered, a quiet proposal to collaborate on the script, my voice finally finding paper. Conflicts resolved not in perfection, but persistence, therapy sessions, boundaries drawn against prying eyes. Months later, at the premiere of Echoes, our film, hearts poured onto screen. The audience rose, applause thundering. Jordan, tucked sharp, leaned in amid flashes. We did it. I squeezed his hand, the blue shirt peeking from my suit. Together, no superstardom could eclipse this. Love, forged in misunderstanding's fire, resilient as the boys we'd been. And as credits rolled, our names entwined, I knew. The hook that reeled us back wasn't fame or fate, but the unbreakable thread of us. After a decade apart, he'd returned not as a stranger, but home. And this time, we stayed.